Okay, so my name is Mohsan Khan. I work at Apegroup as a developer. My spare time, I have a hobby project company called Khan of Sweden, and I make games. So I made a game, and well, let's just move on. It's called Hoppa, and could you guess what you have to do in the game? No, okay. So let's play the game first, to begin with. Whoa, okay, I think I have to change the display. Or do you see it? No, I have to change the display. Okay. Okay, that's good. So this is the game. It's made with SceneKit and SpriteKit. It's entirely, or pretty much, Apple frameworks. So let's just play the game. So the goal of the game is to find the right color. Some colors are quite similar, so it's a little bit tricky. And the ball bounces faster and faster as the shapes also change of the ball. So, okay, it's really fast now. Whoa, 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 whoa. Okay, whoa, 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 whoa. Okay, 9 points. Well, you get the point. Okay, so it's a really fun game. You should play it all the time. I did a lot of design. So pretty much I did everything. 2D, 3D music, sound, everything. So the first icon I made quite early in the process. So my idea was to create a pipeline from when I get an idea to pen and paper, and what do I do then? Photoshop, 3D software, and pretty much build the entire pipeline. And also how I should handle changes during the development process, because the old icon I'd made pretty much the first month. The newest icon I made pretty much a few weeks ago, because the old icon just was too much flat design, and I really don't like flat design, and I wanted something more dramatic. So the new icon, I must admit, does look more interesting than the old flat icon. And these icons are rendered in Maya. It's 3D software, pretty famous, which is used in pretty much many movies. It's ray traced and everything you can imagine on the icon. So the game works for Mac OS X, iOS, and recently Apple TV. So I pretty much had to build a platform that could handle all three platforms, so that I don't have to worry about writing code specifically for Mac or iOS or Apple TV. It's written in Swift pretty much. There are some Objective-C parts in the game which I can't write in Swift, because Swift doesn't have that possibility yet. It's based on SceneKit and SpriteKit, SceneKit for 3D and SpriteKit for 2D overlays. And on top of that, Dreamcatcher, which is a game engine I built a couple of years ago, which was written in C and Objective-C, which I have ported to Swift. But also, I couldn't port everything because some things just aren't possible in Swift currently. And it uses OpenGL and Metal if the hardware can support it. So the game was a fun way to learn Swift when Swift was released. Like everyone else, I sat down and tried to learn Swift, but making a game was a really fun way to learn Swift, because then you actually have a goal, a meaning to learn, and you have all these challenges that come up all the time. yeah, as I mentioned, not everything was possible to convert to Swift or SceneKit. Although the SceneKit and SpriteKit framework for Objective-C, you can do more stuff than you can do for the Swift framework. So it's a little bit shame. And the game has almost no images. And that's very interesting. So pretty much everything is vector graphics. It's 3D graphics for the 3D, and the 2D graphics is vector graphics, which is rendered in real time, just in time before you need it. It only takes a few milliseconds. So that's very interesting. The only images in the game are alphabetic images for the sprite, the text, which is each sprite, each image represents ASCII character. And since those characters are converted to sprites, I can pretty much animate text as well, just like anything else in the game. So this is just a simple bitmap font atlas. You probably have seen this many times in games, like old school games, and pretty much on the web also. I still haven't figured this part out, how I can make this as a vector graphics, but I'm working on it. Vector graphics, which is used in game, it's pretty simple. So it's rendered in real time. If you remember, you can just select this. So let me just, when I open the game, you will see a logo of a dragon. And just see how fast it is. Okay, so that's 800 lines of Swift code. Like that. So it's really fast, even on iPhone 5. The lowest devices I'm targeting or testing with is iPhone 5 and an iPad mini, and it's super fast. So 800 lines of Swift code, just boom. So don't be afraid of vector graphics. And the good thing about vector graphics is that you don't have to worry about scale. It's infinite scale. So you will get pixel perfect rendering of your image for that device. So it's really fantastic. And it's future safe. So whether they release a new iMac 5K or maybe next year or 2 years from now, they will release a new Apple TV with a higher resolution, because that is going to happen. We're not always going to be using HD on Apple TV. So get ready for that already now. And as I said, it's 800 lines of Swift code. That's a lot of Bezier paths. And it's super fast, so it's really cool. So this image was done in Illustrator, just imported from Illustrator the paths into Paint code. You probably heard of it before as SVG, and then just set up all the scaling transformation stuff in Paint code, export it, and just run it. So it's super fast. So the game works on different platforms. If you play it on a Mac, on the left side you get a keyboard, and on the right side you get a finger hand touch. I'm also working on the Apple TV remote kind of image thing. Some examples of vector graphics. These are quite heavy vector graphics, but this is vector graphics. So if you're really skillful at vector graphics, you can call me. Otherwise, so all 3D was created in Maya, and Maya supports. The good thing about SceneKit is that it supports open source, pretty much standard 3D file formats, OpenCollada. So that you can pretty much in Maya or Blender or pretty much any software just export animations, slides, materials, geometry from these softwares, and just in Finder preview, quick look, and start playing with it, and just drag and drop into Xcode, and Xcode will automatically show you all the settings and stuff, and you can start editing these files in Xcode also, as if Xcode just kind of turns into a 3D software at that moment. So it's pretty cool. Also, there's up shaders been applied in the game. You kind of have to look a little bit closer, but pretty much lighting and some material is kind of live. I played a lot with Shader Toy. You can just Google Shader Toy. It's a really fun website on the internet where you actually see the shader code and then you see the result. It's really, really fun. And I set up, I was awake many late nights, drinking some whiskey and playing with shader toy, and it's a really interesting experience. So here are some examples of shader toy. You have the code to the right side, and you have so this is not 3D. This is just pixels placed with colors so perfectly. Well, it looks like it's 3D, but it's not. And you have the code to the right, and you can see that it's actually not that much code. You have a scroll bar up here, but it's just scroll down a little bit more, and that's the code. So my skills in shaders isn't that good yet, but I mean, these guys they really understand how to use pixels. There's another shader. So I mean, this is just pretty much math happening in real time. So it's really, really cool. So play with shader toy, it's really cool. There's something called Hell. It's also a really interesting effect. But I hang a lot at shader toy to get game ideas, because some shaders pretty much say, this is a game, make me. So, okay. So you could probably make a spaceship go inside this hellhole and something coming out, and yeah. So I used Maya, and I play a lot with Maya since 1990 when it was released. And here I'm pretty much trying to figure out different shapes of the ball from the red one, which is kind of high polygon count, and then finding different geometry shapes. Because I had certain lighting and material in the game, and I wanted the light and the material to reflect in a certain way so that it kind of creates a more dramatic, interesting effect in the scene. And also with the cube, I kind of wanted to find a more interesting cube. In the beginning, it was flat, if you remember. And after a few weeks or months, I got tired of it. So I kind of wanted to find something more interesting. So here I'm just pretty much playing around with the geometry as if it was clay, kind of trying to figure out some new interesting geometry. But then I simply ended up with something that looks like a toy box, and I got inspired by my nephew, which kind of has a little toy box where you put in shapes with a similar color. So inspiration from that. Music and sound, all music and sound was made in GarageBand. Now, GarageBand is, as you know, Apple's like minimum music software, but it's really, really capable. And it has some really, really impressive synthesizers, digital synthesizers. You can do a lot of good stuff with GarageBand. So that was really fun. The song is something about 3 minutes long, but fun to make music. I use playgrounds a lot to kind of simulate animations, trying to figure out how I want stuff to animate, since I have a lot of interest in animation and 3D. If you remember the logo in the beginning has an animation, so pretty much I was figuring out how I want that Hoppa logo to, all the keyframes and stuff. So Playgrounds is really cool, and you can get this to work for SceneKit and SpriteKit. It's very easy. And it's targeted for Mac, so you get native performance also. It's really nice. And so I'm testing out shaders. If you remember the particles in the background, which rotate when you rotate the cube. So pretty much this is a shader that draws particles on a geometry. And some more. So Playgrounds is really cool, especially for testing out 3D. So the project started in January. I know it's a very long time, but I work a little bit now and then on my spare time. There's a little bit more left to do, like adding Game Center and finishing Apple TV remote focus stuff. So my target is to hit December, just in time for Christmas. And it's not that much code, only 887 code commits so far. It's not that much, really. But I spent a lot of time on research and simulation to kind of build this pipeline, because my next game should only take like 2 or 3 months. It depends on how advanced it is. So basically the pipeline is start from pen and paper, take that to Photoshop and Maya, and then do some playgrounds, and then start coding, and then kind of continue like that. And the game will work for, as I said, Mac, iOS, and Apple TV. And of course, I found a lot of bugs. And one of the reasons why I started using vector graphics was that Apple had so much issues with 3x graphics in SpriteKit. Really, really awkward. And I reported all these bugs to Apple, and at the end they have like a note field. I was said, "This is so awkward, Apple." So they know it's me. Anyway, but a lot of bugs were really, really annoying. For instance, if you when they released Xcode 7, you could use assets, but sprite assets instead of. So pretty much you put all the images in the sprite asset, and you'll get a texture atlas of all the sprites. But somehow it would mix 1x and 3x images together in the same image. And if you wanted to use 3x images, it would load the 2x image. So awkward. I mean, really, I don't know if they test or something, but it's really awkward. And some functions in SceneKit and SpriteKit just crashed the game. Just boom, crash. Okay, can't do it. So hopefully, well, actually, most of these bugs have been fixed. The one I mentioned with the pictures getting mixed up, it's still open. They have fixed it in the new the iOS 9.2 and El Capitan 2 beta. They emailed me last week and asked me to test it. I said, yeah, it works, good, finally. But it's kind of late. So anyway, so let's play the game again. So remember now, everything is real time. Okay, so yeah, it's a Mac. Okay, green. Okay, so I'm gonna go for 10 points. Then I'm happy. Okay. The trick is to keep rotating the cube, because then you can see all the colors. Okay, good. And as you can see, it's using metal. Let's see. Okay, cool. Let me just pause the game. Let's see. Okay, I'm not gonna be able to. Okay, let me try this again, and then I'm gonna pause the game. And it crashed. Yeah, it's SceneKit. It's not my game. SceneKit. Okay, no, SceneKit doesn't want to play. Thank you.